Hello again! I'm back, and by popular demand doing more specific character analysis, just in time too with Ice Queendom coming out on the 24th. Yay! Before we begin, I just want to thank my wonderful patrons for making these episodes possible, links below. Now, a quick aside, what is a narrative parallel and what purpose does it serve? Well, in mathematics, parallel lines do not intersect but run alongside one another perfectly, which fits well in narrative frameworks by having characters on different tracks but made of the same stuff, or evoking similar ideas or playing similar roles while not being the same character, obviously. A common example might be contrasting two leaders who are on opposing sides from one another. With that in mind, let's push on and discuss some of RWBY's villains RWBY have been comparing, contrasting and paralleling with Ruby Rose. Starting off strong but perhaps surprising, Ruby Rose and her parallel position and role towards Adam Taurus in regards to Blake Belladonna. Because yes, Yang serves as a counterpart to Adam as far as Blake's partner and seeming romantic interest is concerned, but Adam played one other role in Blake's life. He was her leader. Oh, Sienna Khan, long may she be praised, was the overall leader, but Adam was the one who gave Blake her marching orders, led the two of them into combat, and who gave her orders in the field. All roles RWBY plays. What's more, Adam was someone whose ideals she thought she believed in or otherwise shared to make a better world, and her experiences with him left her cynical and wary. Then there's Ruby Rose, appointed leader rather than luring Blake in, younger than Blake where Adam was notably older, seeming on the surface as an optimistic, bubbly and even ignorant or otherwise childish person compared to the grim and ruthless Adam. Except of course Ruby isn't naive, as is shown in their first exchange, which serves to deliver a chink into Blake's armour. Unlike Adam, who is murderous rather than ruthless, Ruby can make coolly calculated decisions in the moment where lives, be it her own or others, are in balance. As Adam was before his illusion was broken, Ruby is inspirational to Blake, and Blake herself has shown consistently strong faith in Ruby's maturity and leadership ability. The fact that Ruby and Adam share classic black and red colour palettes, rose symbology, well, that all just drives the point home. Meanwhile, Ruby and Cinder have a lot of fun parallels. For instance, they are both young girls taken under the wings of grizzled but affectionate older huntsmen who taught them how to fight. At age 15, Ruby was granted entrance into a combat academy early due to her prodigious skills after getting into a dangerous duel with criminals that would have at worst left her with a slap on the wrist. At age 15, Cinder's prodigious skills, through which she wanted to enter an academy to gain freedom, allowed her to kill her mentor after he turned on her for striking back at her abusive slave masters. Both also had similar roles to their big good, big evil counterparts as especially chosen high potential candidates and field agents, but as we see, Ruby's taken up a leadership role while Cinder's growing rebellion is more subtle. What's more, on a narrative level, both are at their most effective when no one accounts for them. One can say this applies to anyone, but the fact that they are the characters utilised in such a manner says a lot. To quote the lyrics, they see you as small and helpless, they see you as just a child, surprised when they find out a warrior will soon run wild. And when they don't plan around the other's potential presence, such as at Beacon or Atlas, they end up getting their asses kicked by the other. On a similar level of thematic parallels born of backstory, we have Salem and Ruby Rose. Salem and Ruby, who both lost their mothers before they could ever really know them, unlike Yang, who did know Summer, with both living in the shadows of said mother's personalities or accomplishments, be it Salem being expected to love the same things as her mother did, or Ruby being compared to her as a leader. Both turning to and loving fairy tales as a means of coping and playing out roles from such stories. Both also in general have a hell of a lot of charisma and draw people to them, and are skilled at playing on desires or faults for strategic value, and are in essence the faces of each other's opposition. Of course, as of yet, neither of them have actually realised this fact about each other. I wonder what will happen if they do. Then, of course, we have Ruby and her parallels and contrasts with Ironwood. First and foremost, Ruby and Ironwood are both, yes, leaders, and at different times have essentially placed themselves in the narrative role as heroes of the story. Ruby when the series was starting out, and Ironwood both throughout his song and his persistent efforts to take charge and lead the world against Salem. One of the key differences here is that Ruby's ideal of heroism is very all-inclusive. She's one among many, while Ironwood, both through word and actions, shows that it's his way or the highway by removing anyone who disagrees with him from power because only he knows what's necessary. What's more, both are placed by the narrative as opposing Salem at first, the mistress of Grimm, but how do we meet their characters? Well, we meet Ruby slaying Grimm, while we meet Ironwood forcing his army on a city that didn't ask for it, showing narratively where their focuses lie. The fact that Ironwood's skills and efforts all lie in enforcing draconian rule over other people rather than fighting Grimm or leading in a war against such things further drives the contrast home. The aforementioned details of their types of heroism also apply to their role as leaders. Ruby is ready, eager, and willing to work with others and take on suggestions, swaying or fraying at times due to circumstances, but overall resolved to be collaborative. Ironwood is an extant control freak from the moment he arrives to the moment he's defeated, and while he may occasionally let others speak, he never actually listens to them or acts on their advice. What I am getting at here is that Ruby and Ironwood were in essence both straining for the role of main character, running parallel to one another as leaders, as heroes, as agents in the story, but where Ruby faces her fears, questions herself, but resolves to keep moving forward in the face of adversity, Ironwood's shown response to being scared was always to become more paranoid and defensive, cloaking his fear in alleged ruthlessness or finger quotes logic, but never dealing with it and thus being devoured by it. We even see it in small ways. Ruby is pragmatic in manners such as luring in enemies with a speech or turning foes' strengths against them by using her environment or making weighty decisions on what to prioritize long term. Ironwood thinks he's pragmatic, but his efforts and methods all pertain to reinforcing the current status quo and his position therein. The idea of ceding ground to Robin or Mantle rather than just strong-arming them into submission never occurs to him. We also see it in how they handle deceit. Ruby is shown to be very uncomfortable with such acts, to question herself, and is motivated by legitimate concerns such as Ironwood's draconian treatment of Mantle despite his relatively warm welcome to them. Ironwood persistently and bitterly complains he is not trusted and that Ozpin keeps secret, all while hiding Penny and laying the groundwork to backstab Ozpin, or not telling his allies he's having them guard items meant for Mantle's defense that he's taken to be used on Amity. One is engaging in legitimate introspection on not being honest despite her own reservations about not being honest with people, the other is just hypocritical to the extreme. Ultimately, one of the biggest contrasts is both want to unite the world against Salem. Ironwood intends to do this through releasing information he thinks will cause panic and then using his military to essentially occupy the rest of the world by having Atlas, i.e. him, control everything. Ruby trusts people to handle the revelations and ultimately just asks for help while working to steel their resolve for the oncoming danger. At least that's my take. I hope you enjoyed this broad take on Ruby Rose and some of the characters she parallels. Unsurprisingly, they were all leaders. Shocking. Posts that help inform this episode can be found linked below. If you would like to help support these episodes and get early access to scripts, videos and stories, please hit up my Patreon linked below. If you'd like to commission 3D art, follow the link to my Ko-fi or Twitter and we can chat. Thanks for stopping by.